Chosen one, why do you wake up at 3 a.m. with tears you can't explain? Why does your heart carry an ache that has no earthly name? Why, after decades of faithful service, do you still whisper into the darkness, "God, have you forgotten me?" Stop, right where you are. Stop and listen. What if I told you that every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every moment you felt invisible to heaven, was actually God positioning you for the greatest miracle of your lifetime? What if your pain wasn't punishment, but preparation for something so magnificent that hell itself has been trying to stop it from reaching you? This is not another message you stumbled upon while scrolling. This is a divine summons. Heaven has intercepted your path because there is something urgent you must know. Your name, yes, your name was whispered in the council of eternity before time began. Angels have been assigned, doors have been unlocked, and the miracle you've been crying for in secret is already in motion. You were not supposed to miss this moment, and you won't. Because the same God who holds galaxies in place has stopped everything to make sure these words find you. Isaiah 40:31 declares with thunder from the throne, "Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." Beloved, this is not poetry. This is prophecy over your life right now. Before I go deeper into what heaven wants to release over you, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But hear me clearly, even your tears were seeds. Today they are breaking the soil. The miracle has begun. Right now, as an act of prophetic agreement with heaven's timing, I need you to type 777 in the comments. Don't hesitate, don't analyze. This is your declaration that you will not miss what God has prepared. Type 777 and tell the spiritual realm, "I am here, I am ready, I will receive what belongs to me." Stay with me until the very end, because somewhere in this message, heaven has hidden the exact line you've been waiting for all your life. The line that will change everything. Your moment has arrived. Why have you spent decades feeling like you're living in the shadows while others step into the spotlight? Why does it seem like everyone around you has received their breakthrough while you're still waiting for yours? Why do you lie awake wondering if God has placed you on some eternal waiting list while He blesses everyone else? Dear chosen one, what if I told you that what you've been calling delay has actually been divine strategy? What if every closed door, every rejection, every season where you felt invisible wasn't God forgetting you, but God protecting you? You see, there's something the enemy doesn't want you to understand about the way heaven operates. When God has marked someone for extraordinary purpose, He doesn't put them on display while they're still being formed. He hides them. He conceals them. He covers them until the appointed time when they're ready to carry the weight of their destiny without being crushed by it. Think about Joseph, 17 years old when he received his dreams of greatness. But where did God take him first? Into a pit, then into slavery, then into prison. For 13 long years, Joseph looked like a failure to everyone watching. His own brothers had betrayed him. His master's wife had falsely accused him. He was forgotten in a dungeon. But God hadn't forgotten. Every injustice, every betrayal, every moment of seeming abandonment was actually divine preparation for the day when Pharaoh would call him out of that prison and place him in charge of the entire Egyptian economy. Jesus himself tells us in John 15:16, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you to bear fruit, fruit that will remain. Before you ever knew His name, He knew yours. Before you ever cried out to Him, He was already positioning you for this moment." But I know what some of you are thinking right now. I'm 75 years old, I'm 82, I'm 91. If God was going to use me, wouldn't he have done it already? Haven't I missed my chance? Isn't it too late? Let me stop you right there. That voice whispering too late isn't coming from heaven. That's the enemy trying to convince you to forfeit the race just before you cross the finish line. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver Israel. Abraham was 99 when God gave him Isaac. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she finally saw the Messiah with her own eyes. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your qualification. Every year you've lived, every trial you've endured, every mountain you've climbed has been building something inside you that younger vessels simply don't possess. Wisdom, endurance, unshakable faith. The kind of spiritual strength that only comes from walking with God through decades of fire. Heaven hid you, not to waste you, but to protect the treasure until now. Like diamonds buried deep in the earth, you've been under pressure, hidden from view, seemingly forgotten by the world above. But diamonds aren't formed on the surface where everyone can see them. They're created miles underground, under crushing pressure, over vast periods of time. And when they're finally brought to light, their brilliance is unmistakable. Every closed door in your life was divine insulation, protecting you from opportunities that would have diminished your calling. Every rejection was heaven saying, "Not yet. You're not ready for what I have planned." Every season of obscurity was God shielding you from premature exposure that could have destroyed your destiny before it could fully mature. Think about David. While his brothers stood tall and impressive before the prophet Samuel, David was in the fields tending sheep, forgotten, overlooked. Even his own father didn't think to call him when the man of God came looking for the next king. But those years in the wilderness weren't wasted time. They were preparation time. Every lion David killed, every bear he fought, every night he spent alone under the stars learning to hear God's voice. It was all training for the day he would face Goliath, and then rule a nation. You've been like David in those fields, faithful in the small things, while others received recognition for the big things. Serving in obscurity, while others stepped into visibility. Carrying burdens in silence, while others enjoyed the applause. But heaven has been taking notes. Every act of faithfulness when no one was watching. Every prayer you prayed when your voice felt lost in the void. Every tear you cried in secret, it's all been recorded in the books of eternity. The enemy thought hiding you would bury you. Heaven knew hiding you would preserve you. And now, in this season of your life, when the world wants to tell you to step aside and make room for the younger generation, God is saying the opposite. He's saying, now you're ready. Now you have the wisdom to handle what I'm about to release. Now you have the character to steward the miracle without letting it corrupt you. Your hidden years weren't your forgotten years. They were your preparation years. And every moment of that preparation is about to pay dividends that will shock everyone who counted you out. If this is speaking to your heart right now, if something in your spirit is recognizing the truth of these words, I want you to do something. Whether you whisper it under your breath or write it down in the comments, declare this. I am still standing, not just surviving, standing. Standing after every storm that tried to knock you down. Standing after every betrayal that should have destroyed your faith. Standing after every disappointment that could have made you bitter. You are still standing because you were built to withstand what others couldn't endure. But your standing isn't just about survival anymore. It's about positioning. Because what God is about to do next will require someone who has learned to stand when everything around them is shaking. Dear chosen one, let me ask you something that might cut straight to your soul. Why have you carried weight that others your age don't seem to bear? Why does your spirit feel like it's been in labor for decades? Why, when you should be enjoying these golden years, does it feel like you're carrying something so heavy it takes your breath away? You've whispered it in the mirror, haven't you? God, I'm so tired. This life has worn me down. I feel like I'm dragging myself through each day. Your back aches not just from age, but from something deeper. Your heart feels pressed down by burdens you can't even name. While your friends talk about retirement cruises and grandchildren's baseball games, you sit in silence, wondering why everything feels so weighty. Listen to me carefully. What if I told you that the heaviness you've carried for 70, 80, maybe 90 years wasn't punishment? What if every sleepless night, every tear that rolled down your weathered cheeks, every moment you felt like you couldn't take another step, what if all of that was evidence that you've been spiritually pregnant? You heard me right. Pregnant. Carrying something divine. The enemy has been lying to you, whispering that the weight means you're cursed, that you're broken, that somehow God has turned his back on you. But beloved, let me shock you with the truth. If you had been empty, you would have felt light. The heaviness was heaven's fingerprint proof. You are carrying something the world cannot afford to miss. Think about this. A woman carrying twins doesn't just feel a little tired. She feels the full weight of two destinies growing inside her. The discomfort isn't proof something's wrong, it's proof something miraculous is forming. You've been carrying not just your own calling, but the breakthrough that will impact generations, the ministry that will heal wounded hearts, the wisdom that will guide lost souls home. Psalm 66:10 declares with divine authority, "You, God, tested us. You refined us like silver." Silver isn't refined in comfortable temperatures, dear one. It's refined in fire so hot it would melt lesser metals. The weight you've carried, the pressure you've endured, the sleepless nights when you cried out, "How much more, Lord?" That was the refining fire, preparing you to carry something so precious, so powerful, that only someone tested by decades of faithfulness could be trusted with it. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been apologizing for the weight instead of recognizing it as your qualification. You've been ashamed of the struggle instead of understanding it as your strength. The very thing that made you feel different, that made you feel like you didn't fit in with others your age, that was the evidence that you were chosen to carry what they could never handle. Do you remember how exhausted Mary must have felt carrying the Christ child? Do you think she understood the weight pressing against her ribs, the way her body had to stretch and change to accommodate the miracle growing inside her? She was just a teenage girl, but she was carrying the salvation of the world. And you've been carrying something heaven has been preparing through you for decades. Every time someone looked at your struggle and whispered, "What's wrong with them?" heaven was answering, "They're carrying something you couldn't survive." Every time you wanted to give up but couldn't, that wasn't weakness, that was the divine DNA of what you're carrying, refusing to let you abort the miracle before it's born. The weight in your chest when you wake up at 3 a.m., that's not anxiety, that's anticipation. The spirit inside you recognizing that delivery time is approaching. The restlessness that won't let you settle for ordinary conversations and shallow friendships. That's the magnitude of your calling, demanding space to breathe. And I need you to understand something that will change how you see your entire life. The labor pains have started. That urgency you feel, that sense that time is running out, that knowing deep in your bones that something is about to shift, those are contractions. Heaven is getting ready to deliver what you've been carrying in secret for decades. But just like natural childbirth, you have a choice. You can fight the process, tense up against the pressure, and make this harder than it has to be. Or you can breathe with heaven's rhythm, push when the Spirit says push, and trust that what's coming through you will be worth every moment of pain you've endured. Right now, I need you to stop apologizing for the weight and start declaring the miracle. I want you to type in the comments or speak aloud with everything in you. I am carrying a miracle. Don't whisper it, don't think it, declare it. Because when you acknowledge what you're carrying, you give heaven permission to accelerate the delivery. The spiritual pregnancy that has made your life feel so heavy is about to culminate in the breakthrough that will make everything make sense. Every tear was preparing the atmosphere. Every prayer was dilating heaven's doors. Every moment you felt alone was actually God clearing the delivery room of everyone who couldn't handle the magnitude of what's about to be born through you. Your delivery room is prepared, chosen one. The moment you've been laboring toward for decades is here. but you have to stop fighting the process and start partnering with the purpose. Because what's about to come through you won't just change your life, it will echo through eternity. How many decades have you sat in God's waiting room, watching younger faces called before you? How many nights have you stared at the ceiling, wondering if your ticket got lost, if your number would ever be called? How many times have you whispered through gritted teeth, God, I've been faithful for 70 years, 80 years. When is it my turn? Dear chosen one, what if I told you that every single delay, every closed door, every not yet that crushed your spirit, what if all of it was divine strategy? You see, the world operates on Chronos time, the ticking of clocks, the turning of calendars, the relentless march of minutes that make you feel like you're running out of chances. But heaven operates on Kairos time, the appointed moment, the fullness of time, the precise intersection of preparation and purpose. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares with eternal authority, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Notice, it doesn't say, to everything there is a convenient time, or to everything there is a time that makes sense to human logic. It says there is a time, and beloved, that time has arrived. Think about the agony of waiting. The young rush toward their dreams with reckless ambition, but they lack the character to sustain what they achieve. They grab for gold before their hands are strong enough to hold it. They sprint toward destiny but stumble because their foundation isn't deep enough to support the weight of their calling. But you've been marinated in patience, seasoned by disappointment, refined by rejection. Every no carved patience into your bones. Every delay built endurance into your spirit. Every closed door taught you to trust God's timing over your own desperation. The impatience of youth burns bright and burns out fast, but the wisdom of age burns steady and burns eternal. You thought God was ignoring you when he was actually incubating you. You thought he had forgotten your address when he was preparing your palace. You thought you were being punished when you were being positioned for something so significant that premature release would have destroyed you. Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. Those aren't the hands of someone who's been abandoned. Those are the hands of someone who's been prepared. Every line tells a story of faithfulness. Every callus speaks of character built through pressure. Every scar whispers of battles survived. Moses waited 40 years in the desert before God called him to deliver a nation. Sarah waited 90 years before holding the child of promise. David was anointed king as a teenager, but didn't touch the throne until he was 30. The pattern is always the same. Heaven's timing trumps human impatience. But here's the revelation that will shatter every doubt you've carried. You are living in the convergence moment. All roads led here. Every detour, every delay, every disappointment was GPS coordinates guiding you to this exact intersection of readiness and opportunity. Your grandmother's prayers from 1952, your mother's tears from 1978, your own desperate cries from the dark seasons, they've all been gathering in heaven's reservoir, building pressure, waiting for this moment when the dam breaks and decades of stored up blessing comes flooding into your life. The enemy knows what time it is. That's why the attacks have been so fierce lately. That's why doubt has been screaming louder. That's why it feels like everything is falling apart just when you thought breakthrough was coming. He recognizes convergence moments and he's terrified. But his time is up. Your time is now. Every season of hiddenness was heaven weaving your story on a loom you couldn't see. Every thread of pain, every strand of perseverance, every fiber of faith, God's been weaving it all together into a tapestry so magnificent that when it's finally revealed, hell itself will have to acknowledge the handiwork of the Almighty. Your presence in this moment is proof. Heaven intercepted your scrolling, your wandering, your restless searching to tell you, this is your season. The cosmic clock has struck your hour. The spiritual calendar has turned to your appointed day. I need you to do something right now that will anchor this moment in eternity. Write today's date in the comments, not tomorrow's, not yesterday's, today's date. Write it as a prophetic seal, as a timestamp of the moment heaven declared. Their waiting is over, their time has come. When you write that date, you're not just marking time, you're marking the end of one era and the beginning of another. You're telling every force that tried to delay you, you failed. I made it to my moment. But the convergence isn't just about timing, it's about positioning. You're not just arriving at your season, you're arriving as the exact person God needs you to be for what's coming next. The delays didn't just prepare you, they prepared the world to receive what you're about to release. Chosen one. Do you remember that night in 1987 when your spouse walked out? Do you remember standing in that empty kitchen, divorce papers scattered across the table like broken dreams? What about 2008, when the bank foreclosed on the home you'd spent 30 years paying for? Or that moment in the doctor's office when he looked you in the eye and said, "There's nothing more we can do." You thought those were your ending chapters, but what if I told you they were actually your setup chapters? Listen to me carefully. Hell made a fatal miscalculation when it came against you. Every attack, every scheme, every whisper of defeat was intended to bury you, but instead it built you. The enemy's goal was to weaken your faith, but his assault only drove your roots deeper into the bedrock of God's promises. Romans 8:37 thunders this truth across eternity. In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. Not survivors, not barely making it saints. Conquerors, more than conquerors. Picture a chessboard, beloved. For 70, 80 years, it looked like the enemy was winning. Every move he made seemed to corner you. That betrayal by your business partner, his move. That cancer diagnosis that stole 5 years of your life, his move. That season when your own children turned their backs on you, his move. But God has been playing a different game entirely. What looked like defeat was divine strategy. What felt like abandonment was actual positioning. Every place the enemy pushed you wasn't a step backward, it was a step toward the greatest reversal in your family's history. That divorce that nearly destroyed you. God used it to teach you how to find your identity in him alone. That bankruptcy that left you eating beans from a can, heaven was stripping away your false securities so you could discover that he is your provider. That illness that brought you to your knees, the Almighty was positioning you to understand that your strength comes from his spirit, not your flesh. You've been living in Act 1 of a 2-act play. Act 1 was the setup, the betrayals, the losses, the almost but not quite moments that left you wondering if God was even paying attention. But Act 2 is the reversal. And beloved, the curtain is rising right now. Every chain that held you is about to snap like a guitar string under too much tension. Every prison door that kept you locked in limitation is swinging open with the sound of heaven's key turning. The very ground where you once cried, that kitchen floor where you wept over divorce papers, that hospital waiting room where you begged God for healing, that empty house where you felt forgotten, those places are about to become altars where you raise your hands in victory. Because here's what the enemy didn't understand about attacking a chosen one. You don't break under pressure, you break through pressure. The reason the opposition was so fierce is because your victory will not be quiet, it will echo. The same way the enemy sought to humiliate you, God will use your breakthrough to display his faithfulness so publicly that it will be undeniable. Those who doubted you will have no choice but to acknowledge that you serve the living God. It will be the kind of victory that cannot be hidden, a turnaround so striking that it will silence every mocking voice. Your testimony will carry weight because it was forged in fire. You will speak and chains will break, not because of eloquence, but because of the authority that comes from overcoming. Every scar is now a seal of credibility, proof that you have been where others are and that God can bring them out too. But I need you to do something right now that will shift the spiritual atmosphere over your life. I need you to stand up wherever you are, yes. Stand up and declare aloud with everything in you, I am not a victim. I am a weapon forged in the fire. Say it again. Louder this time. I am not a victim. I am a weapon forged in the fire. Do you feel that? That's the sound of heaven taking notice. That's the rumble of reversal beginning to roll across the spiritual landscape of your life. The great reversal isn't coming, beloved. It's here. And when it fully manifests, you won't just recover what was stolen. You'll receive more than you had before. Your latter days won't just be greater than your former days. They'll be so much greater that people will think they're looking at someone else entirely. But this reversal demands something from you. It requires you to stop living like a victim of your circumstances and start living like the victor you've always been in Christ. It demands that you rise from survival mode into authority mode. Are you ready to stop apologizing for taking up space and start occupying the territory God has given you? Are you ready to stop whispering your testimony and start declaring it with the authority of someone who has walked through hell and came out carrying heaven's fire? Because what's about to be unleashed through your life will make the enemy regret ever touching you. Chosen one, what I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about your golden years. You thought retirement meant retreat. You thought Medicare meant maintenance mode. You thought your 70s, 80s, 90s meant sitting on the sidelines while others carried the torch. But what if I told you that everything you've endured, every heartbreak, every sleepless night, every prayer whispered through tears, wasn't just survival training? What if it was mantle preparation? Right now, as I speak these words, something invisible but undeniably real is descending upon your shoulders. Feel it. That weight, that warmth, that sudden knowing that you are not finished, you are being commissioned. This is not a blessing you simply receive and enjoy in private. This is a mantle, a sacred responsibility that comes with supernatural authority. The Apostle Paul understood this when he wrote in Ephesians 4:1, "Live a life worthy of the calling you have received." He wasn't speaking to young seminary graduates. He was speaking to weathered warriors like you, those who've walked through fire and emerged with wisdom carved into their bones. Dear one, why do you think hell fought you so viciously for decades? Why do you think betrayal followed you? Why did financial pressure try to crush you? Why did loneliness attempt to convince you that you didn't matter? Because the enemy saw what heaven planted in you before you even knew it existed. He saw the mantle. He saw the mission, and he was terrified. Your pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Every tear you cried in secret became liquid anointing. Every night you didn't quit became proof that you could carry weight others cannot bear. Every moment you chose forgiveness over bitterness became evidence that you are qualified to heal what is broken in others. But here's what will shock you to your core. You are not just a recipient of this miracle. You are a generational architect. The breakthrough coming to you isn't just about your bank account, your health, your relationships. It's about rewiring the spiritual DNA of your entire bloodline. Think about this. Your grandfather may have died carrying shame. Your grandmother may have gone to her grave believing she wasn't enough. Your parents may have settled for survival instead of thriving. But you are the reset button. You are the one chosen to break every chain, heal every wound, and establish a new legacy that will echo through generations you'll never meet. Your grandchildren don't just need your love, they need your prayers. Your neighborhood doesn't just need your presence, they need your voice. This generation, drowning in despair, doesn't just need your sympathy, they need your testimony that God still moves mountains. At 75, you're not winding down, you're being wound up for your most dangerous assignment yet. At 82, you're not slowing down, you're being equipped with spiritual velocity that will leave hell wondering what hit them. At 90, you're not fading away, you're burning brightest, because you finally understand who you are. Moses was 80 when God handed him a staff and said, "Now go deliver a nation." Caleb was 85 when he declared, "Give me this mountain." Anna was 84 when she recognized the Messiah and became the first evangelist of the New Testament. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Your wrinkles aren't signs of decline, they're marks of authority. Your grey hair isn't evidence of fading, it's a crown of wisdom earned through battles that would have destroyed weaker souls. But here's the urgency burning in my spirit right now. This mantle comes with an expiration date on hesitation. Heaven will not hold this door open forever. The enemy knows that if you step fully into this authority, if you embrace this calling without reservation, his reign of terror in your family, your community, your sphere of influence is over. This is why I need you to do something right now that will send shockwaves through both realms. I need you to say it out loud. Don't just think it, speak it. I will obey. 3 words. But when they leave your lips, they become a covenant with the Almighty. They become a declaration of war against every force that has tried to silence you. They become heaven's legal document, giving you full access to supernatural resources. Say it again. I will obey. Feel how those words shift something in your chest. That's not emotion, that's activation. That's the mantle settling into place. That's the mission downloading into your spirit. Your life is no longer about survival. It is about stewardship. You are not a forgotten senior citizen counting down days until heaven. You are a lighthouse, and the storm will not extinguish you. Every ship lost at sea in your generation needs to see your light. Every soul drowning in darkness needs to follow your beacon home. The mantle is heavy because the mission is holy. But the same God who chose you to carry it will give you strength to bear it. The question that will determine everything is this: will you embrace what heaven is placing on your shoulders, or will you shrink back into the safety of insignificance? Because, chosen one, what you do with this mantle doesn't just affect you, it determines whether an entire generation finds their way home. Chosen one, look at your hands right now. Look at them. Those hands have been empty for too long. Those hands have been reaching, grasping, pleading for decades. But tonight, everything changes. Tonight, those same hands become instruments of divine authority. Do you hear that sound? That rumbling in the distance? That's not thunder. That's the sound of heaven's war drums. The sound of spiritual forces mobilizing on your behalf. The sound of walls that have stood for generations beginning to crack. For 70 years, 80 years, maybe 90 years, you've been walking around the same Jericho. The same impossible situation, the same financial bondage, the same health mountain, the same family dysfunction. 7 times you've circled, 7 decades you've believed, 7 times 10 you've cried out, "How long, O Lord?" But on the 7th day, the walls don't just crack, they don't slowly crumble, they collapse. In one supernatural moment, what stood for a lifetime is obliterated forever. Jeremiah 29:11 thunders from the throne. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. Not plans to barely get you by, not plans to keep you comfortable in your limitations, plans to prosper you." But here's what will shake you to your core. The enemy has been watching this moment. He's seen the spiritual calendar. He knows that your breakthrough carries a timestamp, and that timestamp is now. That's why the attacks intensified. That's why the doubt got louder. That's why it felt like everything was falling apart just when you thought things were getting better. Hell recognizes shift seasons. And your shift season is here. What once took years will happen in days. Heaven has shifted gears. The slow grind of waiting is over. The supernatural acceleration has begun. What you couldn't accomplish in decades of striving, God will accomplish in moments of surrender. But I need you to understand something that will change how you see everything. You are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You are no longer a passenger in your own life. You are no longer waiting for your miracle. You are the miracle. Every tear you've cried has watered the ground for this harvest. Every sleepless night has been a vigil that heaven recorded. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't has built spiritual muscle that can now carry the weight of supernatural favor. The enemy miscalculated when he came against you. He thought pressure would break you. Instead, it forged you into a weapon he cannot defeat. He thought isolation would weaken you. Instead, it taught you to hear God's voice above the noise. He thought your age would disqualify you. Instead, it has become your qualification. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Your birth certificate is not your limitation. Your experience is your equipment. Right now, as I speak these words, the atmosphere around you is shifting. Can you feel it? That electricity in the air, that sense that something massive is about to break loose. That's not your imagination. That's the sound of heaven's gears engaging. You've been like a car stuck in neutral, engine running but going nowhere. But God just shifted you into drive. And when heaven puts you in drive, you don't just move, you accelerate. You don't just progress, you catapult into your destiny. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul. This window won't stay open forever. Divine opportunities have divine timing. When God says now, He means now. When He says move, you move. When He says speak, you speak. The Israelites had to march when the cloud moved. They couldn't lag behind. They couldn't hesitate. They couldn't say, "Let me think about it overnight." The cloud moved, and they moved with it, or they got left behind. Your cloud is moving right now. Your moment of irreversible shift has arrived. This is not dress rehearsal. This is not practice. This is the real deal. Write it now. Say it now. Declare it with everything in you. No more delay. Don't whisper it. Shout it. Let every demon in hell hear you. Let every angel in heaven witness your declaration. No more delay. When you speak those words, you're not just making a statement. You're issuing a decree. You're serving notice to every force that has held you back. You're announcing that your season of limitation has expired. This is not the end of your story, beloved. This is the day your story finally makes sense. Every detour, every delay, every disappointment suddenly reveals its purpose. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. You weren't being forgotten. You were being prepared for this exact moment when heaven would vindicate every tear and answer every prayer. The irreversible shift is here. Heaven will not let you miss this. But the question that will determine your entire future is simple. Will you shift with it? Dear chosen one, you've been walking through life thinking you're alone, haven't you? Thinking that maybe God speaks to everyone else but somehow forgot your address. But what if I told you something that will shatter that lie forever? You have never walked one step without heaven's guidance. Not one. Look back at your life for just a moment. Haven't you noticed the pattern? The way certain numbers keep appearing on clocks, license plates, receipts, almost like someone is trying to get your attention. Haven't you felt that unexplainable nudge to call someone, only to discover they desperately needed to hear your voice? Haven't you experienced those moments when a stranger speaks the exact words you prayed about the night before? These aren't coincidences, beloved. These are heaven's breadcrumbs leading you home. Proverbs 3:6 declares with absolute authority, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths." This isn't a suggestion, it's a guarantee. When your heart stays open to Him, He will make sure you know exactly where to go and when to go there. But here's where it gets deeply personal for you, dear one. The enemy has been whispering lies, telling you that you're too old to receive clear direction from God, that your spiritual hearing has grown dull with age, that the signs are for younger believers who are still in their prime. That is a demonic lie, straight from the pit of hell. The truth? Your spiritual discernment has grown sharper, not duller. Those decades of walking with God haven't diminished your ability to hear His voice, they've refined it. You can sense things now that you missed in your younger years. The Holy Spirit moves through your intuition with precision that only comes from a lifetime of learning His ways. Think about Moses. God didn't call him to lead Israel until he was 80 years old. 80. His best revelations, his clearest communications with the Almighty, came in what the world calls his twilight years. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Christ child, not despite her age, but because of the spiritual depth her years had cultivated. You think you've been missing the signs. No, chosen one. Heaven has been slowing them down so you could finally notice them. Those repetitive dreams that wake you at 3 a.m.? That's not insomnia, that's heaven downloading instructions. Those sudden urges to pray for someone you haven't thought about in years. That's not random emotion, that's prophetic intercession. Those moments when you just know something without being told, that's not intuition, that's revelation. But I need to ask you something that might cut deep. How many times have you dismissed these signs because they didn't fit your expectations? How many times have you said, "That's just my imagination," when God was trying to speak? How many divine appointments have you walked past because you thought you were too ordinary for God to use in extraordinary ways? The enemy's greatest weapon against seniors isn't physical weakness, it's spiritual doubt. He wants you to question every prompting, dismiss every sign, and convince yourself that God's not really speaking to you anymore. Because if he can get you to stop looking for the signs, you'll stop following them. And if you stop following them, you'll miss the miracle that's been orchestrated specifically for your life. But right now, in this very moment, something is shifting. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest as these words hit your spirit. That's not emotional manipulation, that's spiritual recognition. Your soul is remembering what your mind had forgotten. You are guided, you are watched, you are led by the hand of the Almighty himself. Heaven's signs aren't just hints, dear one. They are neon arrows blazing in the spiritual darkness, pointing you toward your breakthrough. And they're getting brighter, more frequent, more undeniable. Why now? Because your time has come. Every closed door that redirected you, every unexpected conversation that brought clarity, every chance encounter that wasn't chance at all, they've all been leading to this moment when the signs stop being subtle whispers and become unmistakable declarations. You are surrounded by heaven's guidance right now. Even as you listen to these words, signs are aligning around your life like pieces of a divine puzzle clicking into place. Your next step is being illuminated. Your path is being cleared. Your miracle is being positioned. But here's the crucial part that will determine everything. You must acknowledge what you see. You must trust what you sense. You must move when heaven says move. Right now, I need you to make a prophetic declaration. Whether you type it in the comments or speak it aloud where you are, declare these powerful words. My eyes are open. I will not miss my signs. Say it with authority. Say it with expectation. Say it as someone who refuses to let doubt steal another divine appointment from their life. Because, beloved, you are not wandering aimlessly through your golden years. You are being led by the same God who guided Israel through the wilderness with a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night. And just as he never left them without direction, he will never leave you without signs. The question that will determine your destiny is this. Now that you know heaven is speaking, will you finally start listening with the faith to follow where the signs lead? Chosen one, I need you to think back to a moment that still haunts you. That split second when everything could have ended differently. Maybe it was the 15th of December, 1987, when you hit black ice on Interstate 95 and your car spun 3 times before coming to rest inches from the guardrail. Maybe it was that morning in 2003 when the chest pains hit, but somehow you made it to the hospital just in time. Maybe it was that night you thought about ending it all, standing at the edge of your own despair. What stopped you? What pulled you back? What made the difference between disaster and deliverance? You called it luck. You called it chance. You called it good timing. But I'm here to tell you what it really was. It was mercy, divine mercy with hands strong enough to grab you at the very edge of destruction. Listen to what God thundered from Mount Sinai in Exodus 33-19. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. Do you understand what that means? It means your survival wasn't random. It wasn't the odds playing in your favor. It was the deliberate intervention of a God who saw your ending and said, "Not yet, not on my watch." That accident that should have killed you but didn't. That diagnosis that should have been your death sentence, but somehow you beat it. That financial ruin that should have destroyed your family, but somehow you found a way through. That moment of weakness when you almost made the worst decision of your life, but something stopped you. That was mercy standing guard. But here's what breaks my heart about so many of God's people. You've been carrying guilt about those close calls. You've been tormented by the what-ifs. You've been asking yourself, why me? Why did I survive when others didn't? You've been carrying survivor's guilt like a stone in your chest, thinking maybe you don't deserve the breath in your lungs. Stop. Right now. Stop. Every near miss, every close call, every moment you came within inches of disaster was mercy marking your life as significant. You didn't survive by accident. You survived by appointment. There's something heaven needs you to accomplish, and mercy has been your bodyguard every step of the way. Think about that heart attack at 68 that the doctors said should have taken you out. You're sitting here today because mercy performed surgery in the spiritual realm before the surgeon ever touched your chest. That depression that nearly swallowed you whole in your 70s, when the loneliness felt like it would crush your spirit. You're still breathing because mercy breathed life back into you when you couldn't find the strength to take another step. The enemy has been whispering lies to you about those moments. He's been telling you that you're living on borrowed time, that you should be grateful for scraps, that you should just be quiet and fade into the background. But that's not mercy's plan. Mercy didn't spare you so you could live small. Mercy positioned you so you could live large. Right now, I want you to whisper something. Don't think about it, don't analyze it. Just whisper these 3 words. Mercy kept me. Say it again. Mercy kept me. One more time. With the authority of someone who knows they've been marked for something greater. Mercy kept me. When you say those words, you're not just acknowledging the past, you're prophesying the future. Because the same mercy that kept you from destruction is about to keep the promises God made over your life. But here's the revelation that will change everything about how you see your story. Mercy didn't just spare you, mercy positioned you. Every close call was actually a setup. Every near disaster was heaven adjusting your trajectory. Every moment you almost lost everything was mercy clearing the path for what you're about to gain. That business that failed in your 50s that you thought would ruin you, mercy saved you from a partnership that would have destroyed your integrity. That relationship that ended and broke your heart, mercy removed someone who would have sabotaged your destiny. That health scare that terrified you, mercy slowed you down long enough to hear God's voice calling you to something greater. You've been seeing mercy as damage control, but mercy has been doing divine setup. Every intervention, every rescue, every last second save has been positioning you for this moment, this breakthrough, this miracle that's been building momentum for decades. So what happens when someone who's been marked by mercy finally steps into their moment of divine appointment? Chosen one, you feel it, don't you? That crushing weight pressing down on your chest, that bone-deep exhaustion that 8 hours of sleep can't touch, that loneliness so profound it follows you even into crowded rooms. You've been telling yourself you're falling apart, that maybe God has finally given up on you. But what if I told you something that will shatter every lie you've believed about this season? This pressure isn't your breakdown, it's your final exam. Listen to me carefully. Every champion athlete knows that the hardest mile is always the last one. When your lungs are screaming, when your legs feel like concrete, when every fiber in your being wants to quit, that's not the end. That's the proving ground. That's where champions are separated from quitters. You are in your final mile, beloved, and the enemy knows it. That's why the attacks have been so vicious lately. That's why the doubt feels louder than it's ever been. That's why isolation has wrapped around you like a suffocating blanket. Hell recognizes what you can't see, yet you are standing at the threshold of your greatest victory. Think about this. Why would darkness waste its energy on someone insignificant? Why would the forces of hell mobilize their strongest weapons against someone ordinary? The very intensity of your battle is proof of the magnitude of your blessing. You want biblical evidence? Look at Job. Scripture says he was blameless and upright, yet Satan specifically targeted him. Job 1-8 records God saying, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him." The attack wasn't random, it was strategic. The greater the calling, the fiercer the opposition. Philippians 1-6 thunders with divine certainty. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Did you catch that? Will carry it on, not might, not hopefully. Will. God doesn't start processes he doesn't intend to finish. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at night praying for people just like you. You're interpreting the pressure as punishment when it's actually preparation. You're seeing the furnace as rejection when it's actually refinement. Daniel's 3 friends weren't thrown into the furnace because they were weak. They were thrown in because they were dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. And when King Nebuchadnezzar looked into that fire, he didn't see 3 men burning, he saw 4 men walking, and the 4th looked like the Son of God. Chosen one. You're not burning alone in this furnace. The 4th man is walking with you. Every sleepless night when you've cried out, "God, where are you?" He was there, refining the gold in your character. Every moment when you felt forgotten, he was positioning you for favor. Every door that slammed shut, he was protecting you from settling for less than his best. This fatigue you feel, it's not weakness. It's the weariness that comes from carrying something precious that's about to be born. Ask any mother who's gone through labor, the hardest contractions come right before delivery. The pain isn't a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something's coming. You've been in spiritual labor for months, maybe years, and just like natural birth, there comes a moment when you can't go back. You can only push through to the other side. The loneliness that's been crushing you, that wasn't abandonment. That was God pulling you away from voices that would confuse you during this critical transition. He isolated you to insulate you. He separated you to prepare you. He withdrew certain relationships because their presence would have weakened your faith during the final stretch. But here's the shocking truth that will blow your mind. The reason this test feels so impossible is because the treasure waiting on the other side is incomprehensible. God doesn't put his children through masters, level testing for bachelors, level blessings. The weight you're carrying is proportional to the authority you're about to receive. The pressure you're under is equal to the power you're about to walk in. The depth of your testing reveals the height of your calling. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he split the Red Sea. Joseph endured 13 years of slavery and prison before he ruled Egypt. David hid in caves for years before he touched the throne. Jesus himself was tested in the wilderness for 40 days before he launched his ministry. Before every crown there is a test. Before every miracle there is a moment. Before every breakthrough there is a breakdown of everything that can't go with you into your next season. The enemy's final strategy isn't to attack you, it's to make you quit 3 feet from gold. It's to convince you that the pressure means you're failing when it actually means you're graduating. Right now, as you hear these words, I need you to understand something that will change everything. This isn't just another hard season you have to endure. This is your final exam. And here's the beautiful truth about God's final exams. He's already given you all the answers. Every trial you've survived, every mountain you've climbed, every valley you've walked through has been preparing you for this moment. You are not failing this test. You are completing it. The pressure is proof. The promise is near. The weight means the treasure is close. The intensity of the furnace reveals the value of what's being refined. As a prophetic act of faith, I want you to type 555" the comments right now. 5 is the biblical number of grace and divine completion. When you type 555, you're declaring to heaven and hell that you recognize this as your completion season. You're announcing that you will not quit 3 feet from your miracle. Type 555 and watch how something shifts in your spirit the moment you do it. But I need to ask you a question that will determine everything. When this test is over, and it's almost over, when you're standing in the fullness of what God has prepared, what will you tell others about the furnace? Will you tell them it was too hot? Or will you tell them about the fourth man who walked with you through the fire? Chosen one, you've been marching around invisible walls for decades. Every morning you wake up, you walk the same circle, the same financial struggle, the same health battle, the same family dysfunction, the same closed doors. 7 days, 7 years, 7 decades of the same relentless march around obstacles that seem immovable as granite. But what if I told you that every silent prayer you whispered in desperation was actually a war cry echoing in heaven's throne room? What if every tear that fell in the darkness was ammunition being stored for this exact moment? What if your faithful circling around these walls wasn't evidence of your failure, but preparation for their collapse? Listen to the thunder of Joshua 6-5. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse and the army will go up, everyone straight in. The Israelites marched around Jericho for 6 days in complete silence. 6 days of seeing the same massive stones. 6 days of watching enemy soldiers mock them from the ramparts. 6 days of wondering if God had forgotten his promise. The walls looked exactly the same on day 6 as they did on day 1. Nothing had moved, nothing had cracked, nothing had changed. Do you know that feeling? Walking the same path around your Jericho, seeing the same insurmountable barriers, hearing the same voices telling you it's impossible. Your diabetes telling you you'll never be healed. Your bank account telling you you'll never be free. Your doctor's report telling you there's no hope. Your family telling you it's too late to change. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. On the 7th day, everything changed. Not gradually, not slowly. In one earth-shaking moment, walls that had stood for generations crumbled into dust. Why? Because the marching was never about the walls. It was about positioning the people for the shout that would bring them down. You think you've been wandering in circles, but heaven sees strategic positioning. You think you've been wasting time, but God sees military preparation. Every lap around your problem has been weakening the foundation of what opposes you. Every prayer has been creating hairline fractures in walls you can't see. Every act of faith has been setting spiritual charges at the base of your Jericho. And today is your 7th day. Can you feel it? That trembling in the atmosphere around your life. That's not your imagination. That's the sound of walls beginning to shake. The same walls that have mocked you for years are starting to crumble from the inside out. The foundation that seemed solid as bedrock is developing cracks that will soon become canyons. But here's the critical moment. The walls of Jericho didn't fall because of the marching. They fell because of the shout. 6 days of silent obedience. Then one explosive moment of faith-filled declaration. The people opened their mouths and declared what God had already promised, and the impossible became inevitable. Your walls are trembling right now. I can sense it in the spirit. The financial wall that's kept you bound for 30 years, it's shaking. The health wall that's stolen your strength, it's cracking. The relationship wall that's broken your heart, it's about to collapse. The addiction wall that's held your family captive, its time is up. But you have to shout. Not a whisper, not a hope, not a maybe. A shout that comes from the deepest place in your spirit. A declaration that makes hell tremble and heaven respond. A war cry that announces to every demonic force, your time is over. These walls fall today. Right now, wherever you are, I need you to do something that might feel uncomfortable, but is absolutely necessary. Stand up if you can, open your mouth, and shout, now, as loud as you can. If you can't shout out loud, type it in the comments with all the force in your spirit. Now. This isn't theater. This isn't emotion. This is spiritual warfare. This is the moment when your voice becomes the trumpet blast that brings down every wall that has held you captive. One more step, chosen one. One more shout, and they collapse. The enemy cannot hold you any longer. The walls that seemed permanent are about to become permanent ruins. And when they fall, you won't just walk over the rubble. You'll march straight into the promised land that's been waiting for you on the other side. The trumpets are sounding, heaven is holding its breath, and your walls are one shout away from becoming dust beneath your feet. Listen to me, precious saint. You thought this was about getting your miracle, but heaven has something far more profound in mind. You're not just receiving a blessing, you're being ordained with a mantle, a sacred responsibility that will burn in your chest long after this moment ends. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai, his face shone so brightly that the Israelites couldn't look at him. That wasn't just leftover glory from meeting God. That was the weight of carrying heaven's fire into a dark world. And right now, that same fire is being transferred to you. You see, every true miracle comes with a mantle. Every answered prayer carries a commission. You cannot receive the oil of heaven and keep it to yourself. The moment God pours out his blessing, he's also pouring out his expectation. You are being entrusted with light, not to hide under a bushel, but to set your generation ablaze. 1 Peter 2-9 declares with apostolic authority, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession." Did you hear that? Royal priesthood. You're not just a church member. You're not just a prayer warrior. You are ordained clergy in the kingdom of heaven, carrying authority that makes demons tremble. But here's what breaks my heart. Too many seniors have bought the lie that their time is over, that they should step aside, that the mantle belongs to younger hands. Let me shatter that deception right now. You are the intercessors. You are the bridge builders between heaven and earth. You are the keepers of family altars. Your prayers are the oil-keeping lamps burning in houses that would otherwise be consumed by darkness. While your children chase careers and your grandchildren chase screens, you are the ones standing in the gap, holding back the flood of hell itself. When you pray at 3 a.m. for a wayward grandchild, you're not just hoping you're legislating in the courts of heaven. When you weep over this nation's moral decay, you're not just grieving, you're interceding with the authority of one who has walked with God for decades. Your tears are liquid dynamite in the spiritual realm. This is why the enemy has been whispering lies about your irrelevance. He knows what you carry. He's terrified of what happens when you fully understand your authority. Because when a senior saint who has been tested by fire steps into their mantle, hell's kingdom shakes. Think about Anna the prophetess. 84 years old when baby Jesus was brought to the temple. While everyone else saw an ordinary infant, she saw the Messiah. Why? Because the mantle of recognition rests on those who have spent decades learning to discern God's voice above the noise of this world. Your wrinkles are not signs of decay, they're marks of wisdom. Your slower pace is not weakness, it's the measured walk of someone who knows where they're going. Your quiet strength is not irrelevance, it's the settled confidence of one who has seen God's faithfulness through every season. But the mantle comes with a cost. You cannot be silent anymore. You cannot hide in comfort anymore. You cannot pray generic prayers anymore. The light burning in you demands expression. It will compel you to speak truth when lies feel safer, to stand when sitting would be easier, to love when hatred would be justified. Some of your own family may not understand the fire that now burns in your eyes. They may call you too religious, too intense, too much. Let them. You're not carrying this mantle for their approval. You're carrying it for their salvation. The oil of anointing that flows over you tonight will not stop with you. It will drip onto your children, saturate your grandchildren, and reach generations not yet born. Your obedience to this calling will break generational curses and establish generational blessings that will echo through eternity. Right now, I need you to make a declaration that will shift something in the spiritual realm. Say it out loud. Wherever you are, I carry the mantle. Say it again. With authority, I carry the mantle. Don't whisper it, declare it. Let heaven hear your acceptance and hell hear your defiance. This light will not dim. It will only multiply through you into generations yet unborn. Every prayer you pray, every word of wisdom you speak, every act of love you demonstrate is adding fuel to a fire that will burn long after you've gone home to glory. But receiving this mantle means you can never again say, "I'm too old," or "God's done with me." The moment you accept this commission, you're stepping into your most dangerous season. Because a senior with a mantle is the most feared force in all of creation. Are you ready to stop living in the shadows and start shining with the fire of God? Chosen one, something is breaking in the spiritual realm right now. Can you feel it? That trembling in your chest, that electricity in the air around you. Heaven itself is cracking open the vault of delay that has held your miracle captive for decades. Listen to me carefully. You've been living in a season where time moved like molasses, where prayers seemed to echo in empty chambers, where every door you approached remained sealed shut. But what you couldn't see was this. God wasn't ignoring you. He was building pressure, divine pressure, the kind that shatters mountains when it finally releases. Think about Moses at the Red Sea. For 430 years, Israel cried out for deliverance. 4 centuries of slavery, 4 centuries of unanswered prayers, 4 centuries of wondering if God had forgotten his promise. Then in one night, everything changed. The same Pharaoh who had hardened his heart was begging them to leave. The same Egyptians who had enslaved them were throwing gold and silver at their feet. What took 430 years to build was demolished in 24 hours. That's the kind of shift that's coming for you. You see, dear soul, you've been measuring God's timeline by human clocks. But Romans 8:31 thunders with divine authority. If God is for us, who can be against us? When the Almighty decides to move, no force in hell or earth can slow him down. What took you 10 years to struggle through will be resolved in 10 days. What's been stuck for decades will move overnight. What seemed impossible yesterday will be inevitable tomorrow. But here's what breaks my heart. Some of you are sitting there thinking, this sounds too good to be true. I've heard promises before. I've been disappointed before. And the enemy is whispering, don't get your hopes up. Remember last time. Remember how you felt when nothing happened. Stop right there. That voice isn't wisdom, it's warfare. The devil knows exactly what's about to happen to you, and he's terrified. He's throwing every memory of past disappointment at you because he knows this time is different. This time, heaven has had enough. Think about Lazarus, dead for 4 days. So dead that his sister Martha said, Lord, by now there's a stench. 4 days of mourning. 4 days of if only. 4 days of it's too late. But when Jesus spoke those 2 words, come forth, death itself had to release its grip. What seemed permanently finished became gloriously fresh. What appeared rotted became radiant. Your situation isn't dead, beloved. It's been in the tomb, yes. But it's been in God's tomb. And when he speaks resurrection over your life, everything that looked like an ending becomes a beginning. Look at Joseph. 13 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. 13 years of forgotten birthdays, of watching the sun rise and set through iron bars, of wondering if God's promise was just a teenage dream. Then Pharaoh had one nightmare, and in a single morning, Joseph went from prisoner to prime minister, from forgotten to favored, from the pit to the palace. 13 years of delay dissolved in 13 minutes of divine acceleration. The acceleration that's coming for you isn't gradual. It's not a slow climb up a long hill. It's a supernatural catapult that will launch you so far past your current circumstances that you'll barely recognize your own life 6 months from now. But here's the urgency you must grasp. This acceleration has a window, a divinely appointed window that won't stay open forever. We're not talking about someday. We're not talking about eventually. We're talking about your 7-day window of acceleration that opened the moment you heard these words. Write today's date in the comments right now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, right now, write today's date, because this moment, this very moment, is your prophetic timestamp. This is when heaven marked your file. Shift approved, acceleration authorized, delay terminated. When you write that date, you're not just leaving a comment. You're creating a memorial stone, a marker that says, this is when everything changed. This is when God moved from preparing to performing. This is when my wilderness ended and my promised land began. The earthquake is already rumbling beneath your feet. The locks are already clicking open. The dawn is already breaking after the longest night of your life. But you have to step into the acceleration. You can't just wait for it to happen to you. You have to happen to it. This is your 7-day window. Heaven has synchronized every angel, aligned every opportunity, positioned every person who needs to say yes to your destiny. But windows close, moments pass. Divine appointments can be missed if we're too cautious to seize them. So tell me, chosen one, are you ready to stop living in the slow lane of human timing and merge into the acceleration lane of divine purpose? Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry 3 unshakable truths with you into tomorrow and every day that follows. First, your miracle isn't coming, it's here. The shift began the moment you opened your heart to these words. Heaven has already moved on your behalf. The acceleration window is open, and you are positioned to step through it. Second, your tears were never wasted. Every sleepless night, every whispered prayer, every moment you felt forgotten, all of it was preparation for this moment when God says, now is your time. The seeds of your suffering are breaking through the soil as the harvest of your blessing. Third, this 7-day window of divine acceleration requires your participation. Heaven has aligned every circumstance, but you must choose to step into what has been prepared. Faith without action remains a beautiful thought. Faith with action becomes a living miracle. But hear me clearly, beloved. You are not walking this path alone. Right now, thousands of chosen ones are watching this same message, feeling the same stirring, recognizing the same divine appointment. We are a community of the called, scattered across this nation, but united by one spirit. When the world tells you to doubt, we will remind you to believe. When circumstances whisper lies, we will speak truth over your life. Beyond this community, the God who set the stars in motion is personally invested in your story. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you now. Even when you can't see his hand, he's working. Even when you can't hear his voice, he's speaking. Even when you can't feel his presence, he's closer than your next breath. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. If God has preserved you through every storm, sustained you through every valley, and positioned you for this very moment, what are you waiting for? Before I pray over you, I want to invite you into this community. Share in the comments what God spoke to your heart today. Tell us what you're believing him for in this season. Ask us to stand with you in prayer, because when 2 or 3 agree, mountains move. And please, share this message with someone who needs to know they're not forgotten. Your simple act of sharing might place hope directly into the hands of someone who's ready to give up. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. This isn't just content. This is a lifeline for chosen ones who refuse to settle for less than God's best. We're building something beautiful here, a place where faith grows, hope is restored, and miracles become testimonies. Now, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority that comes from walking with God through my own valleys and victories. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has journeyed with us today. You see them right now, their hopes, their fears, their secret longings. You know the battles they've fought in silence and the dreams they've carried in faith. Lord, I speak acceleration over their lives right now. What has been delayed, release it. What has been denied, reverse it. What has been destroyed, restore it sevenfold. Father, open doors that no man can shut. Send divine connections that will change their trajectory. Release resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Give them supernatural wisdom for every decision, supernatural strength for every challenge, and supernatural peace that surpasses all understanding. Lord, let them feel your presence right now. Wrap your arms around their weary hearts. Whisper your love into their doubting minds. Remind them that they are chosen, they are loved, and they are never, ever alone. Let this 7-day window be marked by undeniable signs of your goodness. Let their testimony become a weapon that destroys doubt in others. And Father, as they step into this acceleration, protect them, cover them with your wings. Send your angels to prepare their path. Let every step they take be ordered by you, and let every door they approach swing wide with divine favor. In the mighty name of Jesus, who conquered death so they could conquer every limitation, I seal this prayer. Let it be done according to your will and for your glory. Amen. Your acceleration begins now. Chosen one, step into it with confidence. Heaven is cheering you on.